Welcome back to another episode of the 5-Star Talk podcast with JB and Millie.
Hi guys!
So we are absolutely delighted to be joined by Steve today.
Hey guys, how's it going?
So thank you so much for joining. Now we did do an episode, or I did an episode of Steve podcasts months and months and months ago. But if you guys do want to listen to that, I will link it in the description below. Now Steve, how have you been? Because it seems like so long since we've had a chat.
I've been okay. Been doing a lot of work for the NHS with sorting out their service.
Well, they're definitely doing
their IT stuff.
Awesome work right now. So that's absolutely incredible. But I guess the topic that we're here to talk about today would be the Nintendo Direct. Now, in terms of your personal highlights, I know we covered ours on the channel here. What stood out to you as the things to kind of watch out for?
Well, a couple of games that I've played on other systems, for example, Apex Legends and Fall Guys.
Yeah, see, Fall Guys is one that I've seen so much. Obviously, all the content creators were playing it when that was the trending thing before Among Us, but we'd actually never got a chance to play it ourselves. So it's really nice to see that as an option for the Switch, because I think that's our primary console that we use. So, does it look like there's anything different in the Switch version of Fall Guys, or is it just a straight port?
For me, it just from what I can see, it just looks like a very, very sort of straight port from the current PC build.
And what's the premise? Because it looks interesting. I can't say I've consumed much Fall Guys content myself.
It's, well, if I describe it to someone who's never played it before, basically it's Battle Royale with beans, but instead of trying to kill each other, the idea is to eliminate each other in a series of sort of total wipeout contests.
Oh, that actually sounds quite entertaining. So, I don't remember when they said that was scheduled to drop, but hopefully it's sometime soon. So, is that a game that you play a lot?
Well, I must admit, when it first came out, when I started playing it last year, I must have sunk 150 plus hours into it. Just in the first couple of months alone, and it was a really fun game. They keep adding new content to it and new stuff to it, so all I can say is Switch owners are going to have an absolute blast playing this game. And if they get the conversion right and make sure it runs at a decent sort of frame rate and resolution, you're going to love it.
Now, I guess one criticism I have as someone from the outside, as fun as it looks, I don't know if it seems like not too little too late, but just simply too late. So I think it's fair to say that in the eyes of many content creators and people in the public eye, Among Us kind of came along and overtook Fall Guys' kind of spotlight. And Among Us got ported over to the Switch as early as, just before Christmas, so December time. So for Fall Guys to only be coming out later on this year, now, to you, do you think the game will be completely dead before it even gets a chance on the Switch?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, actually. I think you were talking about Among Us and all that sort of thing. Among Us had been out since 2018, in the domain on PC and the mobile phone market, for example, and it was out 2 years before lockdown obviously came in last year. And what happened was it saw new light because a lot of streamers started playing it. So the developers, as soon as they saw this thing, decided we're going to port it over to another system because it just makes sense, because the touchscreen on the Switch, you can easily just convert the one that you have on the mobile phone across. And you can add the sort of controllers and the sort of input and output on that quite basically. Whereas if you're talking about a game like Fall Guys, it's very primarily designed for sort of the high-end high-end market. At the start it was anyway. They kind of reduced the graphics and stuff down the line. So, but in terms of like you're saying about player base, so Among Us is still consistently having a high amount of players, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's an amazing game. A game like Fall Guys, I think putting it onto a new system could, give the game a second life, a little bit like how they have done it with Among Us. I think it could have a second life because I think so many people just would find the game so much fun. And if they enable party mode like they said they were going to, I think there'll be more people playing it.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess really you can't. It's difficult to compare the two games in terms of the amount of people playing them because Among Us is a game that everyone can get free on their phones, whereas for like Fall Guys and things like that, for a physical copy of the game, you're going to be looking at spending around £50. So I think to like compare the two, Among Us is just available to everybody, and that's maybe where the higher quantity comes from.
Is Fall Guys very expensive though? I know that they've got loads and loads of DLC out, but I assumed when I saw it that it was a game similarly priced to Among Us.
See, my assumption was gonna be that if you wanted a physical copy of the game, if you could get one, most physical releases are in the region of 50.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not entirely sure. I don't think they said they were ever going to do a physical release. I think they said it was going to be eShop.
Yes,
So-
that's the thing that I have. Like, they never specify if it's physical or not, and I assume that they're never going to do a physical. Maybe limited run games might do something for it, but I think it's looking purely eShop. At which point, I think the cheapest game that's in like the kind of the public eye on the eShop would be Minecraft, and I think that's set at about £20 now.
Well, it's going to be it's a bit cheaper than that. If you want to just buy the game right now, I think it's about 15 quid. But the game is forever going on sale.
Yeah.
And also, if you've got, I mean, it's on the PlayStation Store as well at the minute, and I know the PlayStation Store currently has it for 6 quid.
Wow.
So, I wouldn't be surprised if it released it sort of between 6 and 15.
So
I wouldn't be surprised.
That's going to be really accessible then. And in terms of the game itself, is there anything that you can see that might be difficult in terms of changing controls to accommodate for the Switch? Because, for example, when they ported over Among Us, they had to redo a lot of the controls for tasks and things. Some of them people find quite difficult, like the card swipes a lot more difficult on the Switch, and also because it takes so long to type on the Switch as well, you almost don't get a chance to defend yourself unless you're playing it with the touch screen.
I've been blasted into space many times in public lobbies because of the typing on Switch. And what I was going to ask as well, like what you were saying, Millie, is about Fall Guys being translated. Wasn't there something where that's actually got a built-in voice chat? So I don't know how they would do that.
Right. The built-in voice chat thing, they were trying to implement that on a PC build about 6 months ago. It didn't really work out, so they decided to take it away for now, and I don't believe they have any idea when they're going to put it back in. In terms of controls and redesigning it for Switch, no, because they put it on the PS4 when it came out, and the PC has Xbox input support, and also if you have a Switch controller, you can use a Switch controller on the PC version. So I don't think there'd be any sort of need to redesign the controls. I don't think it'd be difficult at all.
No, that does sound good, and I do agree with what you're saying about the game having maybe a new life on the Switch, because personally, and I know that we're probably like the oddballs, the kind of minority gamers, but the first time we really got into Among Us content creation, like we played on the PC and phones, was when it came on the Switch, because that's how the capture cards all set up. So I do definitely see us diving into capturing some Fall Guys content on the Switch as well, maybe collabing and playing some of those games. So maybe there's going to be a few other people with kind of much larger audiences, or people on Twitch that are streaming it that play Fall Guys again. But then again, I don't know how many people are exclusive like Nintendo Switch gamers. I think that in terms of content creation is a bit rare, but I can definitely see it getting more people that just play the Switch.
Well, I think they're also going to implement crossplay as well at some point, which means Switch players can play with, say, Xbox, PlayStation users.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you can all go in the same pool together.
That's actually really cool. I didn't think of that, but I guess that's like the obvious thing, isn't it?
Well, I mean, lots of games are going that route at the minute, because quite a lot of sort of exclusive, quite a lot of games nowadays have gone for the sort of multi-platform route because either one player base has too little, so they want to let everyone have more, or they just want to use one set of servers for everybody because it's cheaper.
Yeah, and I think that's what they did with Among Us, wasn't it, JB? Did they make that cross-platform
You
straight
can
away?
play Among Us on the Switch with people that are either on PC or phone.
Yeah, because it's cheaper, and also if something goes wrong on one, they can fix it quite easily.
That's good. And
So,
Among Us really hasn't had that many updates. I know that there's Airship coming out, but if Fall Guys are updating, like you say, that actually sounds like a really exciting thing. I can't wait.
I mean, yeah, I can't wait for everyone on Switch to get that. If they ever get a chance to get a hold of that game, I think it'll be a great game and a great time for everybody. I think everyone's going to have a lot of fun with it, and the amount of content and just the entertainment value as well. Being able to play Total Wipeout kind of with one of your characters, it's just really fun.
And
I remember I just sunk so many hours into it. It was so fun.
it sounds like a lot of fun. Great multiplayer fun, and I think that they were actually up for some Game Awards. So I don't know. Or way back in the day.
Well, I mean, it was never going to sort of eclipse Among Us on that one because Among Us was nominated for games, quite a lot of awards as well. So
Yeah.
and more people played Among Us, and it was a bit more kind of common, that one. So I wasn't surprised when I heard that Fall Guys didn't win anything. So
But what was the other game that you kind of mentioned? Was it Apex? What's that about?
So Apex Legends is just a battle royale, with a team battle royale game. It's much more fun though than conventional battle royale, I find, because what you have to do in it. There's a lot to it. Basically, last team standing wins. It's innovative with its mechanics and the way you can run and do things. You can run on walls, which is quite cool. But the most amazing thing to me about that game actually isn't the game itself running on Switch. Actually, the most amazing thing to me is how did they port that to the Switch? Because that game struggles to run on modern hardware on PC, and it struggles on the Xboxes. I just marvel at how they've done it, because it's like the studio Panic Button have made games like Doom Eternal run on the Switch. I just look at it and go, how on earth do they get that game to run? It's incredible what they can do with sort of scaling technology and things. And developer like Panic Button, who also released Rocket League for the Switch, which was also another impossible port. It's incredible. I mean, I just can't wait, because then you can sort of play Apex on the go, so you don't have to lug a heavy laptop around with you all over the place.
Yeah, see, that's something that I actually often forget, because obviously with quarantining and everything, and primarily using the Switch for content creation, I can't remember the last time that I actually used the Switch in handheld mode. And so, like you're saying, in terms of everything that they've ported over, not only is that the Switch version of it, but it's also on the go. So I can't wait to kind of try out all these new things pretty much anywhere. I think that sounds so exciting. But like you're saying, it is amazing what they can do in terms of porting things over to the Switch. Like, I haven't played it, but I've heard that games like The Witcher are, titles that really shouldn't work on Switch, but somehow they do.
I played that game on the Switch. I must say that it's obviously, this is probably down to preference, but I was never a massive fan of The Witcher 3 because it just didn't suit my sort of gameplay style. But I've got to admit, it did amaze me that I was able to actually play it while I was in the back of a car. I was amazed that I could sit and just experience the world in a new light. But all these games that come out, it's just incredible what they can do with the technology.
It really is. I mean, like you were saying, being able to play some games in handheld, like, there was a lot of games that JB loved from his childhood, certain Pokemon, certain Mario games, and he said he never thought he would be playing those games in handheld form. And, like, just to be able to pick it up and say, I guess because I'm the one that drives, like, you know, just being able to sit in the car and just play the game, or just throw the game in his backpack and be able to play it instead of like wait until he got home and like having this set up with the Wii or something. And they've ported over quite a few games now from the Wii U and the Wii, haven't they?
Yeah, and that's like
been that kind of transfer.
That's like next level, because those are like the only type of games that type of mechanic was teased. Like, I can't, like, I'll never forget first getting the Wii U and like purposely moving into different sections of the house or different areas of the house, like to see how far I could like manipulate the gamepad's range, so it would be like I'm just picking up on the go. And so to like try so many times to play something like 3D World in another room from the system, just casually lying down, and it not working, to being able to do that like theoretically in an airplane, on a train, in a swimming pool, it's just amazing.
Yeah, it just is. Nintendo have really done a good job this generation with how they've done it, and last generation as well. They were touching on it obviously with the Wii U, but the sort of vision has now been fully realised in the Switch, which is it's brilliant.
And I mean,
But my first big experience of the Switch was sitting in the car, sitting on the train on the way to work, playing the Elder Scrolls Skyrim on the go. I was in another world when I was playing that game. It was unbelievable, and I just thought I just thought this console is going to be one of the best consoles ever made.
like you said, Nintendo have done
Because
incredibly, especially with like the ports and things. Was there anything that you wanted to see in the Direct in terms of games ported over that weren't there?
well, not I don't know really, because there's a lot of games I would want over there. I mean, there's games like Fallout go into it. Now, I think Fallout would be a good shout for it because they play it'll play quite well on it because of the sort of scalability of the engine. But the one I was kind of really interested in is because Microsoft are going to start partnering up with Nintendo soon, I've heard.
Yeah.
And there's a combination and a conversation going on about whether or not they're going to include Project X Cloud on the Switch, which means you might be able to play other games on the Switch. But they were also talking about a port of a very famous Halo game coming to the Switch. And I was just thinking whether or not that was just a rumor or not, but I was hoping, but obviously it wasn't. But they did show some amazing games. I mean, in that Direct, I'm quite into golf at the minute, so I quite like the look of the Mario Golf game.
Yeah, a lot of people were really excited to see that. And I mean, it's just kind of coming off the back of the Mario 35th anniversary, so I guess it's kind of the end of a lot of things that they've been pushing. Like the mentioned Mario for Animal Crossing, that was kind of the tail end of the anniversary, and now the golf as well. That it certainly looked good. I know that we've watched a lot of reactions and those people saying that, you know, they've really added a lot to it from a different variant they'd seen, like the older versions, and that there's now the story mode, there's that constant play setting where it's like a race using all the Mario power-ups. They certainly seem to have added to it really well.
Yes, they have, and it's one of the main reasons why I'm very excited, and I'm fairly sure I'll pick it up on day one.
Yeah, that it does look good, and hopefully it comes with some cool
I'm
like
quite
pre-order
interested.
bonuses or something.
They always give you pre-order bonuses, and I'm certainly going to be pre-ordering it if there's some really cool bonuses going on.
Do you think that it could lead back to, you know, like we saw with, you know, the controls for the Wii, where you could literally buy like sets where you could put the Wii control into like a tennis bat and a golf club and things? Do you think because they've got Mario Aces and they're now going to have Mario Golf, they're going to start releasing more of those kind of like fixtures for the Joy-Cons?
Did they do something for Aces? Because I feel like they did, but I'm not sure. I know that they released merchandise to go along with it, like one of those like
Mario hats and
visors,
stuff, yeah.
but I don't remember. Oh, they might have done, but I can't remember.
No, I can't remember either, but If they did, I'd be certainly buying it.
That's a good shout though, because I know that the only thing that I've seen actively in that is that they've done those like Mario wheels. You know, like you could have like a wheel that you put your Wii remote in Mario Kart. They've done like little ones for Joy-Cons.
Yeah.
I haven't got them, but that's I think the only thing that I've seen. But that would be a great idea, like a golf. Oh my gosh.
Club.
Yeah, a golf club, but where you can put your little Joy-Cons in. I think that would be sick.
Yeah, because they did it for the Wii, because obviously the game you got free with the Wii was Wii Sports. So right off the beginning, you could buy these like boxes of things. And JB and I were saying that it was almost like we're seeing games from Wii Sports but sold individually. Like we've had Aces, we've now got Golf, and we're wondering if we're going to see the reappearance of like other sports maybe every year or so.
I think a Mario Basketball would be cool, because they did that on the DS, and I was hooked onto that game for so long. But I don't know how they would do that if they would literally go full-blown motion controls and like just have it so you have to bounce the ball as a Joy-Con, or if because some things they're adding button functions to.
I think they've obviously got to incorporate the fact that there's a Nintendo Switch and a Nintendo Switch Lite, so they can't go full-blown motion controls
See, that's
because
a
they'd
really
cut off
good
quite a lot of
point.
their player base.
That is such an interesting point that you've raised there, because there are games that you can't actually play on the Lite, I believe, and as well with some of the Pro controllers that you can get. So I remember way before quarantine and things, JB and I were in a Smith's Toy Superstore, I think, and we needed some new Joy-Cons or a Pro controller or something. And the person that like working there was like, well, if you play, I think one of the games they said was Mario Party. There's certain mini games you can't play unless you're using Joy-Cons. And like you were saying there with the golf game, that doesn't appear that it'd be very accessible. It did say there was an option. And also I really liked how during the Direct, I think it was with Zelda, they focused in on how they were accommodating it to the Lite and how they've translated the controls into buttons and things. Like they really did focus in on that for one of the games.
I guess it's all about player base and which ones most people play games on the Switch, because they'll know how many people have bought Switch Lites and how many people have just bought regular Switches. So they wouldn't just cut out half of, maybe it probably isn't half, but they cut out a fair number of their player base just for the motion controls. That you might not even get massive uptake even with people who have normal Switches.
Yeah.
So I guess it comes down to what the player base is.
Yeah. And as well, I guess, for some of the ports, again, I'm talking about the Zelda one, we saw that they're going to be porting over Skyward Sword. There was a lot of people in the Direct had said, in their reactions to the Direct, had said that they actually didn't like the motion controls for that game, and that had been one of like the controversies when that game was initially released. And so they were really pleased to see that there was that kind of transfer, because a lot of people don't like motion controls. Like some people do. I think I'm one of the ones that do, because I remember playing this Mario game with JB where you have to shake the Joy-Con or just mash A, and like it was like a full workout. My arms were hurting by the end of it because I was literally doing like that shaking the Joy-Con thing for the best part of 2 hours. Yeah. And so like I like flung over with the motion controls, but so many people said that they were so happy to see how it was more accommodating for that game.
Yeah, there's always this sort of debate, like why there's Nintendo have obviously incorporated motion controls for years though, haven't they, since the Wii?
Yeah.
So I don't think they're gonna get just because people think it's controversial that they put it in games doesn't mean they're gonna stop making them, because it's their artistic vision. But I don't know which side. I know you sit on the side where you think motion controls are good. I mean, I'm indifferent, but I would say that if I was personally going to play a game that I want to get into, I'm more or less going to sit at the couch and play it without motion controls. That's just my view on that one. But I don't see how it's a big controversy in my view.
No, I agree, and I kind of think I enjoyed motion control more on the Wii because I feel like it was more built for that. So, for example, playing Super Mario 3D All Stars, especially Super Mario Galaxy, my main memories from that was obviously playing it on the Wii when you'd have to shake to blast off to another galaxy. You would have to shake to do the spinning attack, and I was absolutely determined to play it like it was intended to be played by doing that. But at the end of the playthrough, I just found myself pressing A to do the spin and pressing A to like blast off to the other galaxies, just because it was like I don't feel like the Joy-Cons are maybe not made with they're clearly not made with Galaxy in mind, therefore, or Galaxy wasn't made with the Switch in mind. So I just found it a lot easier to press buttons, and I feel that for ports, probably just the button functionalities are better. But if they're gonna release a game like 1-2 Switch or even Mario Party where the Joy-Cons are optimized for that motion control specifically, then it's no harm.
No, I totally agree with you on that one. Well, games like 1-2 Switch, a lot of people have party games on that, when everyone's allowed to meet up with each other again. People who can have parties and all that sort of thing. You can go and have a sort of, you can use your motion controls and play games with your friends and have a laugh.
Yeah, that's always
And
fun.
That's never, Nintendo, one of Nintendo's big priorities obviously is to make games fun. And, I think someone once said a long time ago, I don't think it's necessarily a Nintendo quote, but someone did say, if you can make one person smile, and you can make one person smile, you can then make a million smile. So it starts low and then it'll build up. But I never played 1-2 Switch personally, but I know a lot of my friends had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I've seen some funny, entertaining clips online. We have not personally played it either, but one thing that we did quite like, and I don't think that there's another game that it's been used in, but brain training on the Nintendo Switch has this thing where it implements. I don't know if you can call it the infrared sensor on the bottom of the Joy-Cons, and there's actually these puzzles within that game where they will say, what's 2 add 2, pretty obvious, but you have to like show 4 fingers to the other side of the Joy-Con.
See, I think
That's hard.
It is, and I honestly think that a lot of things with Nintendo, with the Switch, it's like they don't fully utilize what the Joy-Cons are, because like JB said, there's that infrared thing where you've got to hold up a certain amount of fingers as you answer. There's also Ring Fit Adventure, where if you put your thumb on the bottom of a Joy-Con, it can take, is it your pulse rate or something?
Yeah.
Like, there are so many things that I guess you have to pick up the right games to actually know the Switch can do.
Well, I was going to say that I'm not sure necessarily the pulse feature is a useful feature for a Switch personally. But
No, it's kind of interesting.
maybe that's just me.
I wish that there was this free game or this included game with the Switch that just showed why all these things were included. Because the Wii U, I think it's overly hated, to be honest. But one thing that I can't defend it on is how little a lot of the games on it actually utilised the Wii U gamepad, which I actually think was pretty cool. But there's that game, what was it called? Like Wii U Play or something, that had like the Metroid minigame, the Luigi's Mansion minigame, and that was the best use of the gamepad that I think the console ever had. And I just wish that there was something like that, not to justify the Joy-Cons, because I do think obviously every game utilises them to an extent unless you're fully pro controller. But I just wish that there was something, like a reason why it has to do infrared, or a reason why it can take your pulse, just something of that nature that made it feel a bit more Nintendo.
Yeah, I agree with you in a sense. I think that I don't know how to respond to that one, because I'm not entirely sure whether or not they're just using certain features as like gimmicks to show off hardware that's there that not a lot of people are ever going to use. Personally, sometimes it's bigging it up a little bit. I mean, the Wii U, was the starter point for the Switch, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I love this. I like the Wii U. You know what? One of the things I was going to mention actually was from the Direct was Splatoon. One of the first games I ever played on the Wii U was Splatoon 1. And I remember having so much fun on it because you could use the tablet, the pad, to you used to be able to like see where your opponent, you could see sort of the battleground and all that sort of thing. You could sort of plan your next move by looking at that, and I thought it added something to the game. And it was good, the Wii U, but it wasn't well supported by third parties, and I think that's what I don't understand why it was hated, because it was a really good console, but it was kind of, the development of it wasn't handled quite as well as it probably should have been. But they've done a lot of changes with that for the Switch, and look at how many consoles it's on, look how many third-party titles are on it now. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, you saying there about third-party titles, I think the main thing that JB and I said in our direct was just, you can see that Nintendo are broadening their horizons. There were so many games that weren't Nintendo specific. So when we first turned on the direct, we were like, okay, so it's the end of the Mario 35th anniversary. Pokemon's 25th anniversary is this year, and it's the anniversary for Zelda as well. We're going to be seeing things for those three. And they had just gone external with so many of their games that, like you said, there's just so many third parties for the Switch. Because it is, I think, isn't it the best-selling console now? Did it overtake the Wii?
It's either just overtaken the Wii, or it's right on the Wii's behind it.
The Nintendo Switch is the best-selling home console ever.
That's awesome.
Wii's second, and I think then it's the Xbox 360. The last generation consoles, so like the PS4, PS4 and Xbox One, actually got overtaken by the new consoles which have just come out, which is incredible in its life cycle.
I think it really is, but I think with the lockdown, people have just been playing consoles so much more. I remember when JB first got his Switch, and it tells you how many hours you've put in. And I remember bullying him for the hours he was putting in on Sword, because he's got this friend that was on Sword at least 5 hours every day. And I was like, oh my goodness, you're nearly overtaking them. And this was at about 200 hours. But since the quarantine, it just seems to have been okay to just put in as many hours to games as you want. I think on Animal Crossing, you're currently at nearly 800, right?
Yeah, at nearly 800. And honestly, with my newfound Minecraft addiction, I think that's even going to be rivaled.
But it just goes to show how things have changed, because I did used to joke with you about how many hours you'd put into Pokemon, that 200 was a lot. And then from there, just because the situation's changed, it's perfectly acceptable for it to be 800 hours just because of
and I'm hooked.
The world.
I'm so impatient with it as well, to the point where when we were both starting to get into Animal Crossing, and I also got Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, and I was impatient waiting for you to not play Animal Crossing, that I bought a Switch Lite just so I could fulfill my addiction, even when you were playing on the Switch.
Yeah.
I'm hooked. I love it.
I'm going to say that 200 hours during the way the world is now is nothing. I must have soaked at least 1,000 hours into Warzone.
Gosh, I know, I think I only got my Switch at Christmas, and I think I've already put 200 hours into Animal Crossing.
That's a lot.
Oh gosh. So yeah, I mean, I think 200 hours no longer seems like anything in the grand scheme of things.
No, especially not when the Switch, when there's a setting where you can go on and it tells you the hours. It's hey, I've got a new game. Next time you check 200 hours. Oh, where did that go?
Not so new now.
Oh my god.
I mean, did any of you guys like the look of Plants vs Zombies?
You know what? I actually did like it for, I guess if you can call it nostalgia or something, but I remember playing the original game. I think it was on one of the old iPads, and I was addicted to it for the longest time. I didn't play any other Plants vs Zombies game apart from that. And seeing it, I got really, really excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I can finally play this on Switch. but it actually looked a bit different than I expected. It didn't seem like the typical, place the plants, defend the garden. It seemed, I don't know, strange. I don't know if it was just cutscenes, but it wasn't what I expected. But I'll definitely give it a go if the price is decent.
Well, I mean, that one there that you've got is actually, I think if I remember rightly, it was on the last gen. This is a port, obviously, and I think the trailer for the last gen, people criticised it for the same reasons you've just criticised it.
Oh.
And it actually turned out to be actually totally different. If I remember rightly, it is quite a lot. There was a lot of strategy in it, which I find really fun.
I mean, yeah, it definitely seems fun. I like the series, like in general. I like the concept of it, and so if it's using those elements in terms of like characters, designs, if it's set within that world, I'll definitely give it a go. Do you remember how much it was kind of selling for back then?
Well, I think it was just 20 quid or something. I think it was about 20 quid-ish.
So that sounds decent. So we're expecting that to be an eShop exclusive. I don't think anyone's expecting a physical release for that. It may go on sale.
Unlikely.
It may go on sale at some point.
I can't remember when they said it was going to go on sale, but I know that it's sort of I think it's supposed to be this side of summer.
It sounds good. I mean, they do seem to have a lot on offer. Again, I guess kind of going back to Splatoon, the one thing that intrigued me about that was that they've obviously done Splatoon 1 on the Wii U, they've done Splatoon 2 on the Switch, and now Splatoon 3. We're assuming it's on the Switch, like we're not expecting that the Switch Pro or whatever the rumoured third Switch is going to be sometime before next year, but this is like the first time that they've done, I guess, a series like this, another one on the same system, if that's correct.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be interested to see, because I absolutely love Splatoon, so I hope it is on the Switch. I mean, there's obviously these rumours going around, isn't there, about the Switch Pro? It's been going around for years. I would struggle to see that, just because of the way the Switch is selling at the minute. I would struggle to see them releasing a new one, but I don't know. But what I don't want to see though is I don't want to see them do like what last gen did for the other systems, where they released the original, then they released a revision model, and then an upgraded model.
Yeah, that would be
in the same generation.
Yeah.
I just think that was a bad idea personally, and it should just be a generational leap. So it should just be the next generation console, instead of upgrading an existing model and saying you can only play the games play better on the upgraded model, which is basically saying that the standard versions is inferior.
Yes, obviously.
I just find that not very consumer friendly. So I just hope I hope that they don't, but you never know.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But I know that you've obviously said that you really like Splatoon. From what it's shown in the trailers, do you think that it looks like they're doing enough to justify a third one as opposed to more DLC?
Well, if they need to modify some of the mechanics and add some new maps and maybe tweak some of the gameplay a little bit to make it sort of new. They did that between Splatoon 1 and 2, so I have every confidence that they can do it for the third one.
See, this is the thing. In our initial reaction, I think it's because we only got Splatoon like a year ago or something, but we didn't think that it had been out long enough for there to be a Splatoon 3, and this was kind of a discussion that was in Breakout on the internet, in that Mario Kart 8 has been around since, was it
2014. It was, I think, one of the first things that came out on the Wii U. Granted, not a lot of people had a Wii U, so I guess to a lot of people, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was their kind of first take on that iteration of Mario Kart. But
yes, but it was kind of like a little like meme thing that JB was showing me, that Mario Kart 8 had been out for the same time that the first Splatoon had.
Mm-hmm.
So Splatoon is now onto its third variant, and Mario Kart's still kind of just adaptation of Mario Kart 8. So there is kind of some controversy there as to if they think Splatoon was maybe not the best kind of, like, for the end of the direct. I think people were maybe hoping for something a bit more necessary.
Yeah, I
Is
guess.
that the right word?
I guess like people were expecting Breath of the Wild 2 or Odyssey 2 or even something that really needs like that, is desperately needing some type of addition. Like even the latest Mario Party, that's in desperate need of some DLC at this point.
I mean, I think it's just that the new Mario Party was maybe, it was different, but I don't think they ever kind of topped Mario Party 8.
No, and there are that's a very unpopular opinion actually. A lot of people hate Mario Party 8, but that actually stands out to me as one of my favourite ones.
I mean, I must admit, I kind of see your point about the sort of not enough time has passed between games for Splatoon. But I mean, if I'm looking at this right, Splatoon 2 came out in July 2017, and the next one's to be released sometime in 2022.
Yeah, and I get that completely.
So, and generally, I'd say game sequels are generally every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
5 years is quite a lot. It's a fair amount of time, I would say, that's passed. But no, I see what you're saying. But I mean, because I'm a massive fan of Splatoon, I would say it does need a sequel.
Yeah. Was there any other games that you were hoping for a sequel of?
Well, I mean, there wasn't one that I was looking for a sequel for, personally. I think I was more looking for ones that could be ported over. I mean, I'm no surprises here, but I'm a massive Star Wars fan. I was amazed when I saw Star Wars Hunters coming. However, the problem is if it's a free game, it's going to be one of these freemium games, which is basically they're going to monetize it.
Oh yeah, like I guess
they did last.
In-app purchases.
Yeah, it's like they did it with the game last year called The Elder Scrolls Blades. They brought that game to the Switch, and it was the idea that you could build your own kind of world and story if you paid an additional $34.99 every few weeks. And it was like, so I'm basically spending, in about 4 or 5 months, I'll have spent almost as much as I spent on the Switch. And I didn't like that. So what I don't want that with Star Wars Hunters, because I know EA develop it, and EA are very notorious for putting massive sort of paywalls on things, and I just don't want that. But there was a game I wanted to see come over. I wanted to see either Squadrons, Star Wars Squadrons, or Jedi Fallen Order, because the Jedi Fallen Order is a story game, and it is a very fun game, and I think it would work really well. But I mean, there's this long since sort of conversation going on about how EA boycotted the Switch and all that sort of thing. I mean, I don't necessarily think they did that. At the time, I think the thing was that the time they kind of looked at it, I don't think there was enough players. But now there's a lot of players. I think there should be justification to bring those games to it. Either that. I mean, I would like to see sequels to. Ooh, God, goodness me, what was that game I was playing the other day that was on the Switch? Yeah, there's loads. There's a lot of games I'd like sequels to, and I think there's a game. Was it? I'd like to see the Breath of the Wild sequel come out soon.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see a new Xenoblade Blade or Bayonetta game.
Yeah, I think they're doing a Bayonetta, but I'm not sure.
I think they talked about it a few years ago, but they never really said anything more. And my understanding was it was like has kind of gone back into development.
Yeah, because I think they released like an image or something years and years ago, and it's never come into proper fruition, which is a bit of a shame because I think they managed to port over some of the older games on the Switch. But I think in terms of game sequels, I honestly think that we can expect anything at this point now, and honestly, I think probably it was wrong for, I guess, my initial reaction to Splatoon being that it was a bit too soon, because I feel that any other gaming, like, I guess any other gaming team would just get an instant pass. Like, I don't really question the fact that there's going to be, like, a new FIFA every year. I don't know what changes they can possibly make to that game. I don't
GTA.
personally play FIFA, but, you know, I guess they don't really need to change a whole lot. Maybe just a few courses, a few characters, a soundtrack, and honestly, I'm up for any sequel to anything that I enjoy, really.
I mean, I'd like to. The one game, obviously, there's two games that I'd like to see come to the Switch. Now, I don't think these are ever going to come to the Switch, but I would like to see it because if they can, my view on it is if they can port games like The Witcher to it, they can port anything. So, I'd like a game like Red Dead or Grand Theft Auto
Yeah.
because those games are so much fun to play, and if you're in the car or you're in a journey, you can just have an absolute laugh just playing it. Red Dead's just an immersive story, and it's Wild West. It's just an amazing experience. I just don't know. I mean, we all talk about Nintendo. You know, I think Nintendo have broadened their horizon. I mean, if you look at the games that they've brought out in the last few years for like ports like Wolfenstein and Wolfenstein 2. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have thought Nintendo would ever do that because they would kind of not. They're not kind of in the family friendly image.
Yeah, so that's what Nintendo was always renowned for, was been the family console. But as you were saying, their image has changed so much. Like, again, just, you know, we've looked at a variety of reactions, and one thing that got people right at the start of the Direct was just that there was an age kind of caution on it. Like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, Nintendo's grown up.
Saying that, though, Call of Duty Black Ops 2 was on the Wii U.
Yeah, it was. If I remember rightly, Activision got another studio to port that. And if I remember rightly, I think we played it a little while ago. Well, quite a while ago. And we remember it just being pretty poor for a port. We just thought there's quite a few elements missing, and the multiplayer was dead pretty quickly. So, I mean, there are certain games that are going to work and there's certain games that aren't going to work.
Yeah.
I didn't think that Wolfenstein would work on the Switch, and it works like a dream, and there's a lot of people who love it. Doom is another one, which I don't understand that, how on earth they got that on it, but hey ho. There's a lot of people who are thinking a game like Warzone might come to the Switch, but I must say that it's kind of a unrealistic expectation, that one, because the online only game on the Switch, basically the high end systems struggle to run it at a consistent rate.
Yeah.
So converting it to the Switch, you'd have to cut back so much. You'd have to half the frame rate,
I mean,
and the game, it just wouldn't be the correct experience.
Yeah. I completely agree with you there. I think a lot of, you know, internet reliant games for the Switch can have problems. I know that, like, we try and spend some time with, like, our friends, because through the channel we've, like, met a lot of people in, like, America and things, and just trying to spend time with them on online games, it's just so difficult because the Switch sometimes just doesn't allow for and support online play the same way.
I also think that there's argued for this for years on, you know, for other things, but I would say that with the Switch, with the amount of player bases and all that sort of, they make so much money off monetization, content, not like content creation, but they make a lot of money on the games, third-party games, the sales they get online, they get the sales of the Switch itself. They've made a lot of money, so I don't understand why they need to make you pay an additional fee to play a game online.
Yeah, I mean, I know that whenever someone's complained about that, there's always a load of people defending that decision, but it was very odd to me considering that it's the first time they've done anything like that. Like, you could go online, like, for nothing, basically, on the 3DS and everything else.
Well, at the start of the Switch, for the first sort of 9 months, was it 9 months, 10 months, 11? It was a fair few months. It was free, and it worked exactly the same as it did with when it went for paid. And I was just thinking, well, what's the difference? oh, they've given us access to the sort of emulation for the old NES games and SNES games. I went, that's a nice addition, but what am I paying this amount of money? I mean, obviously it's not that much money, but I just think that
They should have
it just screams a
increased
little
the
bit
quality.
bit greedy to me.
They should have increased the quality if they were gonna, start charging. Because I do think that the quality is slightly below average for online in terms of Nintendo.
I mean, look at other services. I mean, obviously this is not Switch related, but look at your Xbox Live and your PlayStation Networks. They give you free games every month, and you're only paying. You're playing just about double what you pay for Switch Online, but they give you free games every month, and I just think that screams like it's worth it.
Yeah.
To me.
And
Whereas the Switch just doesn't, in that sense.
And I love Nintendo to death, but I think the biggest kind of reward that I feel like I've gotten from getting Nintendo Online was they sent an email around, I think a few months ago, saying, because you're a Nintendo Online payer or a subscriber, we're going to give you the opportunity to buy a set of NES Joy-Cons for £50. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. But still, it was paid.
Yeah.
So it was like, congratulations for paying. Here's an opportunity to give us more money. And I did.
Yeah.
100% I did.
In reality, all you've done is given them your email address so they can promote things for you to spend more money.
I mean, I bet I'd be interested to see if they did that and they gave it to X subscribers as well. Because I get emails from them and I haven't been subscribed to online for a little while. Just because I play a lot of offline games on it now. But I get emails from them now and then saying, because you used to be a member and all this sort of thing, and I just went, well, you're basically just saying, give us your money, and for me, that's just anti-consumer friendly. I think personally, it just gives them more chance to monetize, and I personally don't like that attitude in marketing, but. I don't know, that might just be me.
No, I agree. I mean, I guess I'm in a position where I can criticize Nintendo very little for, I guess, shoving opportunities to give them money in the face, because quite often I do find myself falling for it, because I just think that they're in a position where they've got so many exclusive, intellectual properties that it's kind of like, I feel like there's a lot of scope for forgiveness. A lot of people blew up over 3D All-Stars being a limited game, but I'm like, oh no, I would have got that anyway, so it's no problem.
I mean, I'll criticize them for when my view is I would criticize things like that when I feel it's deserved. But generally I won't be criticizing them to hate on it or anything like that. I generally criticize as constructive criticism. Because I love Nintendo. They are one of the best companies in gaming, I think, and they make pretty good consoles. So I can't knock them for everything, but I think Nintendo Switch Online is pretty. It's an interesting one, that one.
Yeah, it's not the best, and even the kind of simulations or the kind of old games, I can't think of any that I've actually played and finished. I intend to play and finish Yoshi's Island, but that's about it. I can't think of any others right on the top of my head.
Nah. Well, anyways, but are you looking forward to when we eventually see the next for Zelda?
See, I'm not a great Zelda fan. I've played actually some of the older DS games that I found a bit more memorable, like Spirit Tracks. I fell in love with the soundtrack on that, and it was just a more simplified experience. It had some puzzles, but at its heart, it was just a fun adventure game that you could dip in and out of. And other experiences, I've played through Ocarina of Time, and I like that, but honestly, this is so controversial, but I couldn't find myself getting into Breath of the Wild. My younger brother tried to convert me to it on the channel, and I just didn't get it. So, for all I would get the hype around Breath of the Wild 2, I don't know. I don't think I'd be on the hype train as much as like other people for
Yeah, I like Breath of the Wild, but I, I can sort of understand that it wasn't for everybody. I mean, the critics blew up about it. Most people who really were diehard Zelda fans really liked it, but the rest of us were just like, it was pretty good, but some people really struggle getting into it.
See, a lot of people are speculating that there's going to be another direct soon, and that Zelda didn't even give away a quarter of what they intend to because, like we said earlier, there's their anniversary coming up soon, as well with Pokemon. So they are expecting a few more directs.
It's like when they did
to kind of explain that. I mean, the only things that Zelda's hinted so far is the Skyward Sword game being ported over, and there's the new Joy-Cons as well.
Those Joy-Cons are amazing though. Oh my gosh. I actually think I'm going to get the Joy-Cons before the game.
I don't even think you're going to get the game. I think
No,
you're just going to get the
not.
Joy-Cons.
Oh, those Joy-Cons.
I tell you what I'd like to see. Probably this is niche to certain audiences, and I know it's probably universal, but there's talk of a sort of an RPG Harry Potter game coming out at some point.
Yeah.
That was actually really bad. I nearly screamed when they said that. I love Harry Potter. That's my reaction to that was nearly awful.
And it's like going to be
All I'll say is
immersive
that
and everything. It sounds epic.
Why haven't you told me about this?
I thought I did.
Well, they stuck it. Been talking about it for the new generation systems for a little while. I know that they were going to do one for the last gen, but they definitely said they're going to do it for this gen, and they would potentially port it over to the Switch if they could. And I was just thinking, do you know what? If they do that, I don't mind buying the game twice, because Harry Potter is one of my favorite things.
Yeah, same here. Like oh my gosh, we've invested in so many like Harry Potter related things recently, from like a light up Hagrid's hut to Funko Pops. It's just incredible.
Addictive.
And like an RPG related game would be amazing, because in terms of Harry Potter games recently, I don't think they've done any at all, at least not since Deathly Hallows actually came out in cinemas. The latest thing I can recall is the port of Lego Harry Potter to the Switch, which was a lot of fun, but it wasn't really that, I guess, big Harry Potter experience. Like, it was great fun, but,
Lego games are always fun to play. I want them to. I don't know if they've done it yet, but I want them to port Lego Star Wars, because that'll be so good.
Well, I think they've got intentions to. It's like the Skywalker, saga Lego.
I can't wait for that. I'll be playing that for a while. But there's another game which might come out soon. Oh, well, it is more likely going to come out in the next 6 months. There's a developer called Galactic Cafe who developed a game for PC back in 2012, but they're redoing it for these consoles and the Switch, called the Stanley Parable. And basically what it is it's a game which is it's a sarcastic kind of commentary on narrative tropes in video games. And what it is, basically, you go and explore this area, and then there's a kind of announcer saying, basically, like, when Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he chose the one on his left, and you can either choose to follow it or you can choose not to follow it. And when you don't follow it, it comes up with some like really clever comments. Really kind of it's a very funny game. But there's a lot of things to do in it, and there are many endings to it, and it's basically just like an exploration game. You'll probably complete the whole entire game in about 4 hours, but it only costs £1, and also it's one of the funniest games you'll probably play. I know that they're bringing that to the Switch this year. And I for one cannot wait.
That'd be great. I'm wondering how they're gonna announce that. If that's just gonna, like you say, it's quite cheap. If they're just gonna casually drop that on the eShop at some unspecified time, or if they're gonna include it in a partner showcase or even another direct. To be honest, because I know a lot of people really
It'll be
wanted
probably
a
in the
direct,
indies.
but this is the first one for ages now.
It'll probably be in the Nindies or Nintendo Indies or things like that, because Galactic Cafe, they made this game as it used to be a mod to Half-Life 2, or was it here? I can't remember. It was used in the Source engine, and then they redid it for PC about 5 years ago as like a standalone thing, and then they decided, you know what we want to do? We're going to put it on consoles and Nintendo Switch, so everyone can experience it, and we're going to add exclusive endings for each system. So they were saying that maybe if it's Nintendo, it's going to have an ending which revolves around something Nintendo. And I just thought, ooh, I wonder what that could be. And
That would be so interesting.
I for one just cannot wait. And it's a game that you can pick up and play at any point. It's a good laugh.
Yeah, it sounds really fun, and it looks like there's a lot of things kind of coming up now in terms of, I guess, the direct as a whole. Are there any other games that you want to talk about that were included in there?
Not really. I think I've covered most of the ones that I thought were noteworthy for me. I mean, is it Miitopia looks pretty cool as well. And Outer Wilds, I'm not sure I'll play that, but I'll watch some gameplay on it.
Yeah, Outer
Think
Wilds to
about it.
me looked like the most surprising one, because I've heard nothing of the game before the direct, and I'd kind of watched through all of it and did a reaction. But Outer Wilds reminded me of that old game Spore that I used to be addicted to, and just like the element of space travel, especially the space stage, and it actually looks like the one that I'm actually convinced to get purely based on the direct without any other knowledge on it.
I don't know. I've seen people. I think I've seen people play it on the PC, but I don't know. It's not for me, but I'm fairly sure there'll be an audience for it.
Yeah, 100%.
But I mean, there was a game that I thought you might enjoy, or there's a game called there's a company called Playdead, and the game's called Inside. It's a sequel to a game called Limbo.
Ah.
They're just very hard puzzle games on the Switch. They're very, very, very good. They're a very good story. They're not very expensive either. And you will spend hours. If you buy Limbo, you'll probably be playing it for a very long time to try and get all the puzzles. It's challenging, frustrating, rewarding, and very fun. And Inside is just a very, very kind of it's kind of weird, but it's a very good story. Use the puzzles to unlock the stories in it. And if you do there's certain like hidden things. If you get all the hidden items in it, if you go around a second time, the ending's different.
Sounds amazing.
You can choose a different ending.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, it's reminding me a bit of, like, I guess one of those. I'm not gonna make it like a Decide Your Destiny book reference, but almost a bit like what I was seeing from Five Nights at Freddy's at the time. Like, if you get one thing and you trigger a good ending, if you do something else, you get a bad ending, or something of that nature, which sounds really cool, because it's almost like you're not conforming to one narrative, you're almost affecting the experience that you have, which is always great to see.
Well, the thing is, you've got to play the game through the first time, and relatively long. But there's a lot. You've got to go find the secrets. You've got to go and find them yourself. They're not obvious. And if you find them all, I'm not going to spoil it. But what happens is, when the first time finishes, when the game comes back around, which it does generally, you can choose a different ending in a different way. And it will become quite obvious how you do it. And the thing is, it doesn't the story itself. You sort of understand it the first time round. So you play the second end, you see the second ending, and it just leaves you with more questions, because they don't actually answer those questions. It just leaves you wondering, and that's what I quite like about it.
Yeah, I think we're definitely gonna try and find that, because I think it just sounds good. We're always looking for new games to play, especially recently. So thank you.
I mean, it's not a game necessarily for families. I'd say it's not that it's nasty. It's just it's not. I don't know how they'd rate it personally. I think it's about could be a 16, but I don't know. Limbo is the whole game's in silhouette, pretty much. But that game is brilliant, but it's also frustrating, that one. And I must admit, I don't think I've ever completed Limbo, but I have completed Inside several times.
So okay. So I guess we were kind of a bit of a ratings warning there. We are still probably gonna try and find that. I think that sounds absolutely incredible. Now, I guess, kind of before we wrap things up, in terms of you, obviously, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. But do you have any type of ambitions going forward for your channel, like content you want to make, topics you want to cover?
Well, I've been trying to work out a way to record a game video for Warzone where I was going to do some tips. I've got some for the sort of Call of Duty Cold War, and I've got a Skyrim video I want to make. But on top of that, I've got some sort of movie content I want to talk about as well. You know, just what I used to do. But I'm also planning to kind of do a live show on my Twitch every now and then, sort of like a live kind of game chat / movie chat / TV chat, just to see what everyone's doing, and we can have have an open sort of forum discussion. But that's about it for me for now. But it's also quite hard to do that when it's limited because I've got work these days. So, but no, I've got a few things I want to do in the future. I also want to sort of I've written kind of a sort of blurb for a story that I've been writing for a little while, and I want to kind of read that story, and I might do it in sort of several parts on the So that's my plans.
That actually sounds awesome.
Amazing.
That's brilliant. And obviously we're going to include all your socials in the description. But where can people listening find you on the internet so they don't miss any of that cool content?
Okay, so you can find me on twitch.tv/Buster2460, and the same for my YouTube channels, Buster2460.
Well, thank you so much again for joining. That's incredible, and we can't wait to see kind of what you have coming up, because that does sound awesome.
Yeah, I like, and as I say, I love your content. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you so much. So I guess to everyone listening to this right now, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the 5-Star Talk podcast. Please make sure to like, comment and subscribe to JB, Millie, and of course Steve.